I just got
Is
a
Elle in the building?
Yes, yes, she
I
is.
did cut a purchase order for that company to go in and investigate the
Oh,
wells. And I said, "You guys
That-
wanna
we
do
got
that
it for
fine,
everybody.
I'll tell you what you have to do.
Do you want me to-
Oh yeah, you know that line that the guy keeps putting and saying it's required to be fine?
I know.
Okay, do you want me to roll it?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so this gets recorded and it does get posted on YouTube, I'm just telling you. And it's nice and clear right
Well, we can't watch it, so we're.
So, let's see, which speaker, which microphone, who's this?
I think you're right.
Outside facility here.
Yeah.
All right. All right, I'm gonna call the, wait a minute, that's off. Oh, you're right. On
It's
off.
reversed.
There you go. I'll call the August 8th meeting of the Stoneybrook Advisory Committee meeting to order. It's, I'll say 3 o'clock on August 8th. And we'll do a quick count. Jim Coker, myself is here, Vice Chairman J.T. Thomas is here, Janice Lancaster, Virginia Stacy, Thomas Roller, Dick Zukowski, and George Sullivan. We have a full house. For starters, I'd like to take a look at the minutes, if you have a chance. If you have any issues or anything with the minutes.
The only question I had was, under the committee request, Ms. Harris stated 18 Crooked Creek. I don't know what 18 Crooked Creek means. Paragraph 5 about.
It's probably, it could have been at, this is their stated at Crooked Creek.
Well,
It
I
says
sent-
at the intersection.
I sent a note back to Dana asking what that meant, and I didn't get a response, so maybe it is.
Did they type it in or is it all?
I'll
done
tell you,
by
well,
voice?
I don't have an answer for that, so I don't know if it's worth correcting. We can approve it and ask her about it, I think. Yeah, it's supposed to, I think it's 18 shrubs are gonna be planted at the intersection of Crooked Creek.
Well, that's what
It
it's.
should be 18, not 18 Crooked Creek. I think it should be 18 shrubs, probably.
Well, that's the one that's buried, the light that's buried in the tree.
Right.
I didn't hear any discussion of putting that many shrubs there. We talked about putting some palm trees there.
Well, I will tell you though, that we have money and there is the intent to increase and upgrade some of the appearance in some of these planting areas where the shrubs are dying off and thinning out. And Al was going to supply us with a plan for that. Do we want to bring her in? Oh, she's here. How you doing, Al? Can we ask you, this is pertaining to last month's minutes, we might have a couple of clarifications here. I think in this one line here, there's probably, I don't think this is you misspoke, I think they just didn't type it correctly. And that is, you said, Ms. Harris stated that 18, it says Crooked Creek, but it's 18 blank at the intersection of Crooked Creek and Pebblebrook. There's an area where they are looking to enhance, and they were looking at the streetlights, which are buried in an oak tree. Does that ring a bell?
And Virginia, right?
Yeah.
She hit it right on the nose. I think that is just a typo, from the minutes that were taken from the recording or something, because at, what we were talking about at Crooked Creek was the oak tree, and it has a street light, and we were talking about taking out the oak tree and maybe putting in palm
Okay.
instead.
Yeah, I don't know what,
Because
maybe
I
they
know-
misunderstood, whatever.
So it probably is meant to say, Mrs. Harris stated at Crooked Creek, at the intersection of Crooked Creek and Pebblestone, there was an area which we were looking to enhance, and we were looking at the streetlights which are buried in the oak tree.
Okay.
Something like that?
Yes.
And we had discussion ensued regarding whether to remove the tree or the street light, and I think with the tree, we're not removing the street light.
No. There had been some discussion in the past about
Well,
moving
of
some
moving
streetlights.
the street light.
Not removing,
Moving,
moving
and
the
that's,
streetlight.
and yeah, so we
And that's
gotta,
why I brought that in and asked you first, but I think we decided at the last meeting it would be to remove the oak tree.
yeah, because moving the street lights, we have come to the conclusion is a frustrating and almost impossible thing to do without being right now.
Understood.
And so taking trees down may be the way to go, right? And there, I gotta tell you, there are some other lights up there. We really gotta take a look at and maybe do some severe trimming in a couple of those trees.
Understood, yes,
And, you know, to
agreed.
really get them out of the way, the trees will fill in other ways, and, you know, and I
Absolutely.
think it's more important to get, because we're wasting that light, we're not using it properly.
Right.
So let's see, this is,
Wanna make a motion?
yeah, well, before we make a motion, let me just restate this. Ms. Harris stated, at the intersection of Crooked Creek and Pebblebrook, there is an area where they are looking to enhance, and they were looking at the streetlights which are buried in the oak tree.
You're just taking out 18 Crooked Creek.
Yeah, we're taking that out. Discussion ensued regarding whether to, it doesn't say remove, all right, remove the tree or move the streetlight. Okay?
I don't remember talking about moving the street light.
Yeah, it did get discussed, and that was brought up, and I think it was mentioned at that time that we weren't gonna be doing that anymore.
Correct.
It does say it was decided to have the tree removed.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll put a move in there before the street light and leave the remove there. And that other 18 Crooked Creek, I'm not sure if that was there. So any other changes to the minutes? Now, this is tough. I hope they pick it up when they listen to this. But in any case, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Any second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so Virginia Stacy has made the motion to approve the minutes as amended. And if there's any questions, we can deal with that and answer that question later. J.T. Thomas has seconded the motion. So all in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, there was something that I was asked to present, and I don't have any documentation or paperwork on it, but I would like the Board of Supervisors to consider at the meeting when they review this minutes, which probably won't be until next month, in September at the earliest, I would think. Stoneybrook, at the beginning of the summertime, made a decision to, on its own expense, rather than wait for the process to approve it at the Board of Supervisors, to inspect our drains and piping to make sure we didn't have any issues that might contribute to additional flooding if we had any severe storms. They were inspected and they were found to be very clean. Because the year before the storms, we actually had them cleaned. And there was concern that silt and other debris might have washed down there, especially leaves and whatnot, and it wasn't bad at all. What we're looking for is the possibility of, since we paid the $5,000 bill out of the HOA funds to inspect the gateway-owned drains and water control system, we're asking to get reimbursed for that.
Out of district funds?
Well, let me ask you this. When you go and inspect in other communities, who's paying for it?
Well, we pay for it, but we also write the purchase order ahead of time and get it approved, not go spend money and after the fact ask somebody else to pay for it. I
Okay.
could be a little more diplomatic than that, but,
I understand.
and it wasn't on any schedule, and there's other communities that.
Well, we
could go in
had
and-
discussed it, but we knew that it was gonna take longer than the Stoneybrook residents were willing to wait, because, let's face it, I think we're in agreement, Stoneybrook had the worst flooding of anybody in the community last year. I know Hampton Park flooded, and I know others flooded, but I think it's clear cut that Stoneybrook had the worst case, and we were looking to try to do everything we can to avoid a repeat. And I hear what you're saying, and I don't totally disagree with it, but I also don't think it's unreasonable, unless anybody disagrees with me, to ask to at least consider reimbursing for us, because we did Gateway's job on that. And I know there's gonna be other communities getting inspected.
And Stoneybrook was bad, but I don't think it was any worse than Bristol Park or Cypress Cay. But if you wanna take that award of being the worst flooded community.
Yeah, I know, I'm not gonna advertise it on the real estate page, that's for sure, but,
And I just have a hard time with that after the fact, because otherwise just, you guys went out and did a project, the coordination, and, you know.
can I ask that we leave that decision up to the Board of Supervisors then?
I'd come ask the board.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, my staff recommendation would be the same. It would change,
So
but
can we-
yeah, you can certainly try.
Put in
Okay.
a written request?
What's that?
Can we put in a written request?
Well,
Is
I'm
that just
basically
discussion?
documenting it by putting in the minutes right now,
Okay.
and I can stand before you and bring that up and possibly submit a bill that we have paid.
What about the drains that they couldn't find?
That one I can't answer you on. I'm not sure what the story was on what they could and couldn't find. I don't know. I just don't know.
Same firm that did the cleaning 3 years ago, right?
I'm pretty sure, I think where Scott is,
Yeah.
I think they were the one that did the inspection, that's correct.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that, but I'm curious to see how they identified drains they couldn't find, but they're the ones that cleaned the first time around.
Well, I
There was
do-
about 3 of them.
Yeah, I think what happened, and I know from experience, and when we were putting in, and, we were looking at options for running electric lines some years ago,
Right.
from installing new light poles, and we actually called in the guy who did the conduits for the electrical lines and other things under the roads, and he said, if you drive down Pebblebrook, you're probably gonna find everything's pretty good. But when they started to get to the side streets, especially during the boom years of late '04, '05, everything, all the sequence of when things should have been done got out of whack. And as a result, no as-bills were provided back in those days. The lines and the drain pipes aren't all where they're shown on the proposals. And you can ask Ed Tinkle about that too, he'll verify that, because he had issues finding that stuff.
Yeah, we had one.
So it doesn't surprise me that there's a few they couldn't find, or maybe don't exist, I don't know.
Well, we had one, I remember at one of the Stoneybrook meetings I went to, the guy said, how come you're cutting a new hole into that system, et cetera, and it's like, it wasn't, it was just grown over in your yard.
He didn't know what he was talking
Well,
about.
I'm saying, there was a drain there, but it was covered over in turf, so they dug all the grass and they went down
Yeah.
it.
He didn't realize what he was talking about, but if there was some, items they were looking for, like, that particular site was behind, between houses. Like, it was down that line that was common area, I guess, and, where that drain ran, and that was an access.
And what are we doing on the 3 or so that are not verified?
I don't know what the issue is about that, and I'm not sure why they were not able to find them, and why they didn't come back and look, or take it to the next step, I don't know. I just can't answer that.
But originally, they would have done that process, so would they now be able to go look for those 3 that are missing?
Well, let me say this, I'm a little surprised they couldn't find them, because they had cleaned their pipes out the year before the storms. So 2 years later, why shouldn't they be able to find them, you know, I don't know.
They're using the same
I mean,
maps that Morris
yeah.
Riley provided. with the
Right,
system
and
maps.
if there was an issue then you would think they would have had time to, I don't know, locate. But I can't answer, I don't know.
I was just curious if we
Yeah.
could request that somebody be in charge of finding them. But pass it on to the next person that would be responsible to do that. If we don't know the answer, I just wish.
Well, it may be something that's on the original plan that never actually got put there. I don't know, that's
Okay.
possible. That was
So,
my point of my
a lot
other
of
story, is
possibilities.
that things didn't actually happen as the plans were drawn up. And I'll state it again, back in the day, Gateway did not ask for as-bills, which led to other issues, as we know, I'm sure you've dealt with that already. So the request, I was asked to ask that, and I have, okay? And we'll go forward with that. Hopefully it will be on an agenda item on the Board of Supervisors later. I know there are some board members that are aware of it.
We could put it on the first meeting in September, the August 16th agenda is already finished.
That'd be fine. Okay, that sounds good.
Well, is there a plan to inspect all the drains in Gateway?
There's I would say the plan is mostly we're just going in and cleaning them. Go in and spend the money to inspect it, so we have the cleaning guys, they pop it, they look in, if it needs to be cleaned, they
You
clean
do,
it.
and so
bill
you
it,
do
and
it
then
both at
move
one
on.
time, yeah.
And a lot of times that, with like Morris Riley, they spend a huge amount of money to go in and go through all the gateway and map all these storm sewers and put it together, and then what happened with it? Okay, Stoneybrook and Silver Lakes gets done, and now that date is 7 years old. Typically when they go in like a community, they would inspect that part of the community, just spot check it and then go in and start cleaning. But there's 2 ways. It's just more when you go in and inspect inspected, it's kinda like, okay, now you got charged to inspect, now you're coming back, well, let's just start cleaning them out. You know, you're paying for the time for the cleaning, so it doesn't make a big difference.
The additional time to
And
organize.
if you spend the money to inspect it, like you just spent $5,000, and what if you don't do anything with it for 5 years, and you just spend the 5,000 for it?
I believe that at that point in time, we had the option that if they found something,
Right.
we probably would have gone ahead and done it,
Right.
and it just wasn't necessary. So, you know, it wasn't a total waste in that respect. And I think there was only 1 or 2 places that had maybe 20% or less blockage.
So you were just buying a peace of mind?
The community.
Well, I'll say it again, yeah, that we were highly sensitive to go and get this sign, and I had mentioned that to you.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
We're still kind of looking for answers.
Right, well, and that's kind of the tough, and then on the other side, it's like, okay, you spent $5,000 and nothing needs to be done.
Listen, that flows right into the next subject, so how about it? You wanna talk about that?
Sure, water level monitoring equipment, yeah, the station, I'll pass the picture around, I think JT has one. Yeah, the Stoneybrook monitoring station
I
was
don't know if
installed.
everybody has this, do you?
What? No.
Okay, I'll pass it, there you go.
There's another one to pass.
Okay, well, I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
We've seen it, let them.
Yeah, and about half the stations were installed, the vendor will be back next week to install the remainder of them, and then hook up the software, and all that data will be coming in here and recorded, so it'll be, you know, real time.
What power are you in?
Solar panel.
Is it solar panel?
Yeah, cell panel.
What's
It's
that?
a cell, you probably might not have hooked it up yet.
Oh,
It's up.
yeah, it might not, I don't know if I saw it.
But how they do it, it's just cell, and it comes in here, it's no different than a lift station SCADA's. So those will be up operational, and on the other stormwater side, we did the presentation on the maintenance needs and the flowways. That same firm is developing bid specifications right now.
Mhm.
Told them I wanted it done by the middle of August, so we can put it out on the street.
Okay.
And basically, cutting the hole in your structure and some of the other work, there's some areas that need grates and maintenance work, we're rolling that right into that work for the contractor.
Now, we had talked about the trench across the FPL property.
Right.
And, you know, are there any plans to do anything with that before we even get data, or is you been waiting for data to do something?
No, we're gonna go and firm it up on either side, we're
Okay.
going and clean it out and sod it and just redo the channel back to original, and basically, we're gonna do that to keep all that water from the easement flowing into the conveyance.
And my concern has been in the past, and I have mentioned it, was about the issue of FPL property, FPL water property coming into our trench,
Right.
competing with us to get the water out of Stoneybrook. And I think you had said you thought you had a way to deal with that.
Yeah, we were gonna berm it up, and we were also looking at some other ways, looking at, you know, if we could pipe it somewhere, and the district finished doing the Alta survey for the easement, and I'm sure in the next month or two, that'll come to the board to accept ownership, and at that point, if you wanted to put some ponds in there, you know, or do some.
Well, I know the original plans called for ponds in there,
Right.
and they just never got done.
Yeah, and where it crosses the road, you know, there's a grate that they could probably use, same thing, putting the baffle up so the garbage doesn't, all those little things are being
Well,
included
even
in the
to-
bid specs.
And for those who don't, you're talking about in front of the hole, which is the
Orifice.
rectangle orifice,
Get
rectangular.
that cut out and then put a baffle.
So they are gonna cut the size?
Yeah.
They are. When is that?
Maybe a little
when
bit-
is- when
maybe
is
a
that
little
gonna
bit
take
bigger?
place?
That should take place, I put it out in August, get the bids in September, and hopefully have them start working October 1.
So when they cut, one of the things that I would like to know is, here's your baffle bottom,
Right.
here's your top. We're missing, what, an inch?
Yeah, an inch
So are they
and a
gonna
foot.
cut an inch low down, or are they gonna cut an inch high?
Depends what the permanent drawing shows.
Can we recommend an inch low?
I think the permit's already been, or have you, is that yet to be done?
It's in the drawing, you know,
It
where that
is?
dimension is coming off the top, so that's how you have to just take a look at it, how far the orifice is down on one side of the drawing.
And you're gonna lengthen it also.
Yeah, foot, yeah.
That wasn't in the,
Original.
in the, maintenance and remediation plan, or whatever it was called, that you presented at our meeting last month.
No, it was, that was looking at the flowways and work that needs to be done with it, and specific structures, and like that berm, we're adding those.
No, when you, document you submitted at our board meeting last month talked about adding the additional inch, you did not talk about adding the additional foot on the end of it.
I don't know why.
Maybe it's an
So
oversight,
you're-
but it is definitely part of the permit.
1 inch and 1 foot.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's definite.
What are you gonna do with the telemetry data?
No, we're basically gonna start storing it here and looking at the relationships of the water levels across the district. And that's one thing as a management tool, and then they're really gonna use it to have data. They wanna do a district-wide stormwater plan, with the intent of seeing if they can put adjustable weirs in certain portions of the system so that previous to a storm, we can lower the water level.
For those of you who don't know, he did discuss that, it came to our board meeting last month. And he also, you did went into this to some extent, I believe, at the Board of Supervisors meeting this last time too. So, you know, it's out there in the public.
And what I'm trying to do now is, doing some mining in the budget to find funds that they would carry over,
Yeah.
to pay for it out of this year's money.
Understood.
Because I think when we go in and do the maintenance on those flowways, I'm expecting it to be $100,000 to $120,000.
Something that builders should have done a better job of from scratch.
Yeah.
Should never have been accepted the way that was.
No, and, maintenance, as we all know, has been lacking.
Yeah, that's true too, but still getting back to acceptance, and that was part of the problem.
For sure.
Without any requirement of adults.
More fun.
Anybody have any more questions on that? That's good, appreciate that report. There is the issue, I know Margaret got it to me, and Mike got it to me, another copy of it. For those of you who don't know, school will be starting next week?
Friday.
Friday. They start on Friday.
I know, that's weird.
In any case, every year we have a problem with parking at the entrance to Stoneybrook out there. If you're not out there early in the morning, it's hard to appreciate how bad it really is. Cars are parked all over the intersection, they're blocking visibility, ingress, egress. When you're trying to get out, it's hard to see to make the turn when you get out of there. And then we have a lesser problem, but still later in the day, during the afternoon, when the kids are coming home in the school buses. Most of the people out there are people that don't reside in our community. They're coming there to drop their kids off. I'm not sure why Lee County lets that outside intersection be a drop-off point for kids. Why aren't they picking them up somewhere else? I don't know the answer to that. But nevertheless, there have been proposals within Stoneybrook to put permanent planters out there instead of the ugly red cones. And unfortunately, I'll pass this around. I'm familiar with it. I've seen it before. This shows a red line that's drawn on there that I guess you can call it a right-of-way line. And if you look at it, it runs right up to the end of the Stoneybrook sign, which means that we really don't have the right to put anything out beyond that that's a permanent installation.
And Lee County right away.
I know, it's a Lee County right-of-way, that's correct. So that's something we gotta take a look at. This is almost gonna be a Stoneybrook issue, and also, talking with Mike, he suggested getting no parking signs up there, because they don't park on our entrance. They actually come off of Gateway and park on our entrance too. It's unbelievable what goes on.
I've seen it.
And in any case, we may need your help on putting no parking signs within the Stoneybrook, off of Gateway, but nevertheless, some kind of approval, whatever. And we'll go to Lee County and see what we can do with them.
What's the law or ordinance for parking on a right of way?
It's posted, you're not supposed to, you can ticket it,
The problem is getting them to do the tickets without a no parking sign, and that's where you have the problem. And that's why we need to deal with that if we're gonna get serious about ticketing.
Yeah, and you aren't gonna put a no parking sign up in the right of way without going to Lee County and making a.
Which is my point.
Yeah.
So that's what we're
And
trying to
it will
do.
be much more complicated as Pelican's finding out, doing something like that.
Yeah.
So the process takes like 3 months to get a no
Take
parking
that
sign?
much and they wanna engineer traffic studies.
And there's
something.
costs involved in everything. This is
On
like,
our
like
property?
doing that.
On there.
Well, on their property, it really falls upon them, but we need them to buy into it, that's the problem. And as Mike mentioned, and I agree with him in the discussion prior to this meeting, was what's the accident history there? Have there been accidents? Have there been issues? What is the history? So we need to take a look at that to be able to justify and rationalize to the county if we can do anything. In any case, so anything out there that we do put has to be removable, has to be temporary, can't be a permanent installation. It's technically, right now, not really part of the road. It looks like it's on our property, but it really is within the right of way for Lee County. So we gotta be able to move it.
That picture that I gave you is the most recent Alta survey. It was done for the road turnover, so it's not
I know,
technically.
which I was upset about because I made the point, I wanted, they should have paved up further into our area. And I made that argument, oh no, this is all we had to do. That should have been paved up to the point that the right of way is, and it wasn't. But that's, to get my last 2 cents in on that. So that's just for your information. There's nothing really, at this point in time, we can do. We'll take it back to the HOA board and see where we want to go with that.
So on a Friday, we're putting cones up,
No.
what are we doing?
You could, but you know.
The HOA board will have to decide what their tax is going to be. So I think we have a meeting on Monday. What's that?
And somebody gets in a wreck and they go, I had to go around that cone, and the guy pulled out, you put the cone there. You know, you're liable.
Well, the person who's legally parked certainly has an issue there too, where the cone doesn't really block visibility.
Right.
The car parked there illegally does,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. Okay. For equipment. You know, real quick question, yes or no, give me a timeline. Timeline on repairs of fences around lift stations and that pad we're talking about.
Okay. And I can answer that one. So I'll take this, I'll just take a minute. The first thing we'll be doing, this is the pictures of the bypass pump. We want to pass them around what that piece of equipment looks like that we'll be putting in the main station.
Okay.
What's the price on it?
For the actual pump itself is 36,000, and then all the riders, we're looking at between 55 and about 60,000.
Yeah, that's funded through the, 400 fund or something?
Yeah, utilities.
Yes.
Utilities,
And it'll
yeah.
be piggybacked on the sheriff's department,
And what we'll do
We need
is,
to piggyback in the sheriff's department.
Yeah, I understand that.
state contracts.
state contract.
If another state agency or county has a price arranged, you can piggyback on it. And-
Get their price.
Yeah, and originally when we bought our Thompson mobile pump, the vendor had it at about $56,000, and then when I went to the state contract, it ended up at $46,000.
That's what I hear.
Where is the sheriff putting theirs?
Oh, who knows what the sheriff's. Well, they just-
Do they even need one, or are they just buying because they gotta pay for budget?
It's a conduit through which to order, that's what it is.
And that's the same thing, there's all sorts of things that are on the Lee County contract for services, whether it's engineer, janitorial, all that, we could piggyback on those contracts.
Do you need anything else from us as far as that pad goes? Do you have the signatures that you need for
Yeah,
that?
the easement's all there, and what we'll be doing is, we've done all the preliminary work about size of the pad and how we're gonna do it. What we'll end up doing is pulling the fence down, putting the slab in, you know, and then hooking everything up, and then re-fencing and landscaping. The only thing that's slowed the schedule down somewhat, because we were planning on getting started with the new fiscal year, is we were told by Thompson that they've got a 16-week delivery time on their pumps.
Okay.
Which.
That's, you know,
Well,
it is
before
what
the
it is.
hurricane, when we bought the last one, it was about 30 days.
Yeah.
And
And they haven't caught up a year later, that's still,
Collier County buying them
Unbelievable.
up. I mean, they've been selling those things like crazy.
okay.
So that's when I would expect, but you'll see us in there soon.
So you're looking at around the end of the year then is what you're telling me, is that
Yeah,
correct?
but I think you'll see before that, and we'll work with you on the landscaping and some selection and, you know, fencing. We're gonna put up a new fence with a slide gate, and put slats in there. You want green slats, black slats? We really don't care. You know, black's kinda trendy right now.
Yeah, I thought so
Traditionally-
too, I was gonna say that, but I'm looking for opinions from.
Well, it's just
the-
something, that's
Wait,
what I'll get.
we don't have to do it right now, we can
Yeah,
look at it
okay.
later.
And then once the pump's in, then the new fence and landscape will go up and done deal.
I'm just curious though, what is the feeling about? Does anybody have any hard feelings in that, gray versus black?
I personally like black mailboxes, black fences.
I like the black, but because everything else in our
My
community
opinion?
comes to green, it'd
Yeah.
probably go better with green.
Yeah, but there already is a push to change the color of mailboxes, though. I've got a few emails on that, believe it or not. All right, that sounds fine.
Okay.
I do have a
Good luck
question.
on that.
Hey.
I know, I know.
And it's directly to.
Still got a list, I'm not
Joe
saying I'm
and
approved,
JT,
you know.
actually. The new measurements and all of this information that's been approved to do, Comcast knows about all of this digging and.
They're already past that
placement.
area.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
They
already
are,
there.
okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
That's
Silly
all gonna
question.
be.
They've hit their quota of water pipes already, so they'll be good to go.
I'm just
on that.
thinking, they know that big thing's gonna be there, right?
And
Okay.
it'll fit in there just fine, and we probably aren't gonna extend much, if at all, outside the fence right now. You had some concerns about 10 feet either way, but we just wanted the room to work, in there and work within our easement.
Gotcha, I know, and I don't have a problem with that, it's a great idea, and even just the maintenance of that number one lift station, because they have to come out and check that system that keeps the odors down, and then they would get off the road that way. As far as the Comcast thing, these guys actually told us they were gonna be out of here already running in this conduit, so you can see how far behind time they are.
Yeah.
And this is running a lot longer just to put that conduit in, and I will tell you that, they should be out of there in a month.
And is this
with
the one that's
conduit.
at the end of Gemstone, or the one that's a little further down?
This is, the number one's at Gemstone,
Gotcha.
that's the number one lift station, the one, it probably predates you when we had all the odor problems, and it's hard to believe how bad it really was. We had to bring them down and run tests and everything, because they didn't believe it. Al Abdo, when he saw the numbers, almost fell out of the chair, I'm telling you, it was that bad. It's intermittent too, it wasn't all the time, but it was bizarre. One of the things he said, and I don't want to kill a lot of time on this, but he said that there were so many empty houses in the community at the time, we weren't getting adequate flow rates through the piping up to the lift stations, especially to number one, and there was gases were building up inside the pipes themselves. They weren't getting flushed out. And it seems like since we've, the community's pretty much full now, and the flow rates are where they're supposed to be, doesn't seem to be as bad. I don't know the readings they're getting these days or how much they have to,
Yeah, once they start scrubbing it, we
Yeah.
aren't testing it.
I'm not, okay, I thought they might be, just to know how much remediation they have to do. I didn't know. But in any case, it hasn't been a problem. We've been fortunate in that respect. Next thing is the crosswalks. Mike and I spoke before. You have in front of you a list of some of the locations, and if you take note of it, there were streets that were not listed.
Yes.
Okay, now what we've done is, thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you. If you need anything else, just holler.
All right, we appreciate it, we really do appreciate your time.
I'm glad to.
Okay. The fact is that after discussion with Mike before the meeting, he had seen this and he contacted them, and we have an understanding of what has to be done. All the intersections will be covered, and went over the pictures that he had provided us with us in the previous month or 2 months, I can't remember, and should not be a problem. Included in that list is that one that's inside on Bluestone, where there is the issue getting across that road. No stop bar will go in there, but there will be a crosswalk, and there'll be the 4 crosswalks across Pebblebrook, and every side road will have new crosswalks and a new stop bar. As far as moving signs and moving stop bars, that ain't happening. We just don't have the right to do it, yeah.
Since the last meeting, I went to the Federal Highway Administration manual on uniform traffic control devices, et cetera, the current edition.
Mm-hmm.
In that section 2B, where there is a marked crosswalk at an intersection, the stop sign should be installed in advance of the crosswalk line nearest to the approaching traffic.
I don't argue with that, but that, and if
Well-
we were removing them, doing something,
Let me finish.
okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The key word in that phrase is should. And my only concern would be looking at the 2 intersections we have that have that thing. At Stone Valley Loop, it's not a quote, problem moving it back because it's still within right of way, et cetera. The other one moves the stop sign back, it'd still be still in right of way, but it still would be right close to that person's property. And the question would come, if something happened, and Murphy's Law says that's one of the two intersections where something will happen, what liability we may have should that happen. And if all you have to do is walk up and down or ride your bike up and down. If you see me on my bike, you always see me on the road because I don't trust people coming up to those stop signs. And I don't, I'd rather ride on the sidewalk. But when you see them coming up, they just go right through the stop sign and they stop before they get to the edge of the road, which is fine, except we have kids running up and down those sidewalks.
Mhm.
And they could care less. They're just going. You know. So that is just something I just brought up. How you handle it is something that needs to, as long as people know that the highway administration says they should be before that, the key word that they would have put must be, then you'd have a different situation. Should opens it up a little bit. And there are other intersections around that I have seen where the stop sign, but they could qualify them. For example, Rickenbacker and Daniels, right there where that pizza place in Norman Love is where you come out. That stop sign is about 25 feet past. But if they put it where they would have it, it's just totally out of the question. So they have a good understanding on that aspect of it. So I just researched that because I knew that was a rule somewhere, just so you know what the rule is and you guys can do what you want.
Let me say this, if you recall, when those stop signs were installed and when that was planned and approved, it was Lennar. It wasn't even Gateway yet, because they didn't turn the roads over to Gateway until the day of turn.
Right, well, yeah, Lennar put those up, and that's why they didn't put some of these places.
And now, because they have been accepted and approved,
Yeah.
to actually move them or to put another stop sign is, as we have discussed at the inner portion by of Bluestone, is a major project.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable, engineering studies,
No question.
all
I
kinds of
don't-
stupid stuff.
I just want to bring that up,
I
and this
understand.
is what's recommended by the Federal Highway Administration.
And I appreciate that, Warren, I know you're always good about that. But this particular case, I think it comes down to cost and, advantage. But with that said, I would like to have a motion to approve this proposal from McShay Contracting to do this with the roads that have been handwritten in. And that is their understanding. Now, we're not gonna sign it. The document's gonna be updated, and as long as we vote to approve it, Mike's gonna present it to the Board of Supervisors, and it'll be coming out of the 004 budget, so there shouldn't be any problem about covering this.
Well, it is under the 10,000, so.
Yeah. So are you making the motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion.
As amended on this letter? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion on this?
Which stop bar at Stone Valley across from Pebblestone is going to be painted?
Hang on a second. Where are we,
There's two of them there.
well, the one, what happened at the bottom, where it says Pebblebrook Boulevard and Stone Valley Loop, that's also where Greenstone is. That's at the end of Pebblebrook.
All right, but the one right above that.
Yeah, because Cobblestone is on one side and Stone
Yeah,
Valley's on the other.
that's
All
the
right,
other
my
end.
question is, which stop bar on Stone Valley is going to be painted? There's two of them there.
So it's gonna be the one that Warren was talking about in the back, or the one in the
There's two
front?
on Stone
Right.
Valley. You got one on.
Hang on a second. If I think you're talking about the one that goes across Stone Valley,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not gonna be done.
It's
Because
not
there's
on
no
there.
No,
way
he's
to
talking,
go.
he's talking about the one that's across the street from Pebblestone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, what's,
On Stone Valley.
There's two of them
Yeah.
over
There's
there.
two stop bars there.
Which one are they
Which one of them is
painting?
going to be painted?
That's the
You
one
can't-
with the
you
stop
can't tell-
signs.
You can't tell squat
After
from
the
this, from
thing.
this.
They have a stop bar back, they have a stop bar by the stop sign.
Stop
Okay.
sign is forward. It's
Right,
on the
and that's what I was talking
Pebblebrook
about.
side of
Yeah.
and all the rest of them are the other side of the.
I think
court.
Stone
I
Tower is
understand.
the other
I
one
understand
where
what
it's
you're
that
saying.
way.
We got this one here, and that one. There's two of them there.
I would say the one by the stop sign itself. I didn't even realize that one was way back
I
there.
know, we talked about it last month.
Yeah, maybe I didn't understand it when we were talking about it, because that one's before the crosswalk. I see what you're saying.
And that's where it should be, and that's where the stop sign should be.
Well, if the stop
But
sign
the
back
stop
here-
sign can't be there, because it's so far back, then you're
You stop at
stopping
the stop
20,
sign and
you're
then
stopping
you-
20 feet from the intersection, and people then don't stop and pull out onto Pebblebrook.
That's what they're doing all the other intersections, so.
Pretty much.
They're
Well,
doing
yeah,
it
another
everywhere
10 feet or
else,
narrow
Joe.
it
This is
down.
the only
Well-
one that's this way. You stop at the stop sign and then you pull forward so you can see.
Read your driver instruction manual, Joe. Go
Well, the
back.
stop
It's not-
sign,
it's not-
as I see it, is it by the road?
It is by the
Yeah,
road.
stop sign right now is by the
But
road.
it's the only one that is. All the others are back at the
Yeah,
other
I know.
side.
Well,
I guess we'll just do the one right here. We'll do the one closest to the,
to the crosswalk.
before the crosswalk.
Yeah,
That's what the rest of them are.
that's what the rest of them are. I would say that'd be the
We
case.
really ought to move the stop sign back there.
None of these
We
are all,
can't
none
move
of
the
these are
stop
all,
sign.
none of these are
We
moved.
can't move the stop sign, I'm telling you.
I'll bet you. if
Unless you wanna sneak
I bet
out there
I
at
bet if you look
nighttime.
at the permit, that's where the stop sign probably is permitted. I'm guessing, but I bet it is. All the others are.
Actually, if you go up and down Pebblebrook, you will see that the stop signs are where the crosswalks are.
Mhm.
That's the problem. You see, because that side of the street, the pathway meanders, and where it gets, some places it gets further from Pebblebrook as it meanders. And that was probably a dilemma for them, how to deal with that, where they chose where to put the stop sign and the stop bar. And I noticed that, I did, because when I.
There's only 2 intersections like that.
Yeah, I think it's Stone Tower and
Stone Tower and
Ivory
Stone Valley.
Yeah.
Not only 2.
There are two.
Well, no,
Yeah.
Ivory Stone's like that too, though.
No, then it's just, because there's only 2. I've been up down there and I've checked them out time and
Okay.
time again. There's only 2. I thought it was Stone Tower, but maybe Ivory Stone.
I thought it might be both of those, but maybe.
But just, I know Stone Valley is that way, yeah.
All right. Well,
Ivory Stone only has one stop bar.
we're only gonna get one stop bar per intersection, all right? And that's what we're basically approving. And what we can do is we can work with them on that subject and see what they recommend. And I gotta believe that the guys who do this know what the statute or law or what's acceptable here. And I promise you we'll.
How
take a
much
look.
you wanna bet?
It is Florida, I get it, I get it.
I wouldn't bet that at all.
Joe, before anything is
Yeah.
approved on C, who is the person from Stoneybrook that will be either supervising or directly communicating with them, so we don't end up with this $750 per day fee?
I will handle that.
You're in
okay?
charge.
Yeah, I will
Your
handle
name's
that.
on it, okay.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm aware of that, and you know, we
Okay.
have no
I don't
control
remember that being brought
over.
up before.
Yeah, no, that was there, that's always
Okay.
been there, and I've known
Look
about it.
at that.
That is, trust me, that's been talked about. And, you know, we will turn off the irrigation system, and we will also and let's face it, a person's not gonna be parked in those spots. If they are, they're probably in the car waiting for a kid, but we'll get them out.
Okay.
And hopefully by then, we'll be towing them anyway. Any other comments on that? All in favor of approving?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Can I ask you one question? What was the timeline once we approved it?
I would say, we might be able to get that done in September, maybe earlier, okay? Because the idea is to get it done in this budget. That's one of the reasons I was kind of in a rush to get this.
And schools.
Because what happens, that money then flows over into next year and gets into that non-designated, line item. I wanted to use what's there for that purpose. Okay, so that's approved. Okay, number 7, update on status of plantings for Irma damage. El, you're up. Before you even get started, can I ask one question? We had talked last month about the shadowing of the sign at nighttime, and there were 2 ways to deal with that. One was to either trim the bushes back, but maybe to raise those lights and even go with new lights, something LED, use a lot less
Okay.
electricity, less.
They did trim them back, right?
Okay.
They cut them back,
Okay.
and probably about in half, actually, so that the lights currently will shine over. Now, if something is decided to do, if something is decided to make a change to the lighting, plants they'll grow back up.
Okay, oh, no question.
But we wanted.
In fact,
I
this is
wanted
a
to-
reoccurring
to
problem,
get that-
actually.
Yeah, I wanted to get that down though,
Yeah,
because I know
okay,
I've been
so we
asked
could
a
say-
couple of times.
Well,
and-
then, I'll tell you what to do. How about you and I, JT, maybe take a look at this? I know you had brought up the subject of the LED lights in the past. You want to see what we can do? And
Yeah.
maybe-
It's good, Volt electric and
some new ones in there. I mean, it's 20.
Might even be able to convert the ones that are there.
Well, the ones that are there right now are 120.
Oh, we can use 120.
Yeah, they're 120.
And they are 120, they're not 240, right? Those are
No,
No,
120.
they're not too.
High voltage, okay.
They're 120.
Yeah, you get those big outdoor LEDs now, put
Yeah.
out some serious light now.
Yeah, you can, we converted several of them over here at the concession stand.
Is this something we can do in-house that you guys can do?
We don't have an electrician in-house.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I would not commit anyone to that.
What about the
If
possibility?
you convert it to low voltage, do you need an electrician? If you put just a transformer box and just run a low voltage?
Probably, yes.
Here's the problem with low voltage, be aware of this, to get the same amount of light, it takes the same amount of power. And when you go to low voltage, you're increasing average. And that's something I'm not sure we really want to do.
Yeah, I'm not an electrician, I
Okay.
couldn't help you out, I'm sorry.
P will be out, it's that simple.
All I know is that, like I say, we've converted several of them over here at the concession stand. And I know it can be done without much ado, but again, I'm not an electrician.
But it's something we can talk about, but I think that I'd rather keep it at the 120. Unless you're worrying about electrocution or something.
No.
Oh, okay. It's an easier light and it's easier to get the replacement volts for that, the system, or fixtures or whatever. Okay, so is that something you can have someone in-house to get a quote on from whoever you use to do it for you?
I would be happy to check into that.
I appreciate that. Okay.
As for the landscaping, you'll start seeing some excuse me, I've got this thing in my throat today. You will start seeing some plant replacements coming in very soon. I think you may have seen them start removing some of the ones that have been declining, and just not looking great. It's in particularly up in the hedges. But there will be a lot of plant replacements. You'll start seeing them coming in very quickly. As far as the rest of it, I'm still kind of working on a plan, going back and forth.
To spend the extra 20,000 that we
Yes,
approved for upgrading.
yes, for the additional
Correct.
enhancements.
Mhm.
We're still working out a
Because
plan.
we're looked at from the other money was, there might have been some enhancement money there, but a lot of that was to repair damage from Irma that we were eating.
That's correct, most all of that, most of it was. There
Yes.
was some plant replacements in
Exactly.
there, like in the hedge, couple of beds that you see on the side of Pebblebrook. Like I
Couple
said before,
cul-de-sacs.
2 of those, there's 3 cul-de-sacs that had extensive damage,
Mhm.
trees and everything. Couple of beds on Pebblebrook are gonna be replaced at Mainscape's, under warranty from Mainscape. And we're going with a different plant there. We're looking at more Exoras,
Okay.
some red tie plant. We're looking at different ways we can add blocks of color
Mhm.
to the boulevard as we go.
Well, they
down.
do have Exora, as you know, come out with different colors, so they're not always orange,
Yes,
red.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. We're looking at reds and yellows in particular.
Mhm. Okay, sounds good to me. I was wondering about if that had been done yet or not, but you told me it's not. And as far.
The replacements, no, they have
Yeah,
not.
okay.
But like I said, you may have seen them start removing some plants. I saw them last week. They were starting to remove some stuff.
I'm sure you've noticed how extensive the digging that is going on right now with the extension, with the installation of the conduit for
Yeah, I've
the
seen
web
that.
optic. And I would think that probably some of that resodding they're gonna do, I don't know how good the job they're going to do, but might be in areas where we might have been paying a Mainscape to do.
I think that what they're doing is that little trench that they're going along and they're digging, they
Yeah.
are just replacing the sod that they're taking
So you don't
out.
think there's going to be?
They didn't bring in
Well,
sod.
there's not gonna be an overlap.
I shake my head because I know you don't have any control on this.
Yeah.
But right there by Stone Valley, from Stone Valley down towards the lake, they dug about 3 or 4 little holes, like you say, and they put the stuff back in there with the rocks and the stone, and that's all dead. So you got about a 4-foot
Well,
by 1-foot
let me-
hole,
let me just
that's
say
all
this.
rocks and dead grass.
This resodding hasn't been done, that happens at the end.
Okay.
Okay,
That hasn't
I was
been done.
gonna say, I
You've
didn't
been
know
in
if they were
Florida
gonna
too long
be
ago.
using new
No, no,
sod.
no.
I'd have to agree with Warren how they do it. They'll pour it off, they'll get their dugging, and they'll take whatever cut they took off, and they'll try to put it back.
And
Let
then
me say
chipped it out
this.
in pieces.
During the construction process, we're supposed to meet with them, and in fact, we're overdue for a meeting, and I think that's because they're behind schedule. But we're gonna be supposed to be meeting with every 2 or 3 weeks, and there's a couple of us that here that will be meeting with them, and these will be subjects of discussion along the
Okay.
process.
The thing is they
We're not
also,
gonna let it drop, I'll tell you.
they also know within a 30-day period, that grass will strengthen and grow right, and you will never tell the difference.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't
And
know.
Not
they
all of
play
it.
that out, do they not
Yeah,
do that?
and I think Ellie knows where I'm talking about.
Yes.
And that,
That's
rocks
not coming
don't
back.
grow.
That's not coming back.
Sorry, rocks don't grow.
Rocks don't grow. You're right.
Remember, I'm from Connecticut, my father used to say, if you had a nickel for every rock in the ground out there, you'd be rich, because that's all it was full of.
Right.
In any case, but I want to make sure we weren't paying to replace sod that
Torn up
Comcast
by
gonna be.
Comcast.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
All right, so you got.
No, sir. We won't be doing that.
Gotcha. Alrighty, so what else you got?
That was it for me. I just wanted to give you an update on where we're at and that, you know, like I say, they're starting to remove and getting ready to bring in some new plants.
Okay, so as far as further proposal though, you don't have anything else?
I
beyond
don't
what you
have it
showed?
ready yet.
Understood.
I'm sorry, I just
No, no.
haven't had a chance to get it
The
together.
only concern is that, we need to do it before the new budget, because otherwise that money disappears.
Understood, yes. I'm with you there 100%, and I will stick within that
I
timeline.
appreciate that.
What was the timeline on the removal of the tree we talked about last month? The one that's been in the street?
I don't have a timeline on that right now,
Just been
honestly.
approved.
Right, I just wanted to make sure, first of all, I wanted to come to the committee and find out what you wanted to do and how you wanted to handle it.
Well, I want to say, if we have them out there removing that tree, is that an opportunity to maybe do a little bit of more serious trimming around a couple of the other lights?
Yes,
Take a look at that.
absolutely.
And that might be a more cost-efficient way to deal with it while we're doing that.
Well, the tree trimming, we have them under contract for that.
I understand that, but this is, I think, above and beyond normal tree trimming. I really want to, and I think everybody else
There
will
are
agree
other
with that.
lights that are buried in trees.
Yeah,
too.
and if we had to take a couple of serious branches off, we'll just leave them over at Warren's house, he won't.
I have a question.
Sure.
They've been doing the trimming along Pebblebrook, and they're doing a good job. At the corner, again, think of Stone Valley Loop and Greenstone, there are some bushes right here that come out, and before they were trimmed, you couldn't see down Greenstone. When you
Yeah.
stopped the stop sign, even in my car, where I sat a little bit higher, you couldn't see. They've got them trimmed now, and down where you can see what's coming down, and I would ask, pay attention to keep that
Keep it
down.
that way.
Yeah, because it does, it's bad enough with people on Greenstone, they don't know how to drive anyway.
I agree.
And they cut that corner and
They
and
speed
hit
down that
us
road
more
and cut the
folks
corner.
swinging.
I agree with you 100%, Warren. I watch it and it drives me crazy. Even making a right-hand turn on
Yeah.
Greenstone, I can't believe how close they came to me.
So, but again, they've done a good job of trimming, and that trimmed it down where it's at right now, is where people can see down Greenstone.
Okay, I will speak to them and ask them to make sure
Yeah,
that
just
we maintain it at that
Maintain
level,
that.
so it's,
I think, there was
down
another
the
side street
yeah,
too, that
Carolina
was had a
side.
problem with that.
Okay,
I
yep.
can't think of it, but.
There is one thing I think I would, mention to you
Go ahead.
folks, and I'm sure you probably heard all about the closing of, Griffin Drive
Mhm.
for the construction. That's gonna put everything coming in and out, on Gateway Boulevard.